going out winter backpacking and freezing your butt off is awful. We've been out there in those chilly temperatures enough to know what gear works and what gear doesn't. And this is the gear we would recommend to battle the cold.
You know we gotta make Andy shoot the plug.
All right.
Check out the podcast.
Yeah. Well, no. Buy the merch first.
Yeah.
And then once your merch arrives, you get the hoodie, you get the hat, the beanie, you get the t-shirt, you sit on the couch, all bundled up, and then you subscribe to the podcast and you watch them all as well.
While you're wearing the merch.
While you're wearing the merch.
And tag us on Instagram.
Yes. And you tag us on Instagram. Yes. And you like all of our videos. And
all of them, even the old ones.
All of them, even the old ones. You go back through the entire catalog and you like them all. And then what you do is while you're at work, you have YouTube running in the background.
Yeah.
Just on our channel.
And you watch the ads
throttle
run.
our videos.
Yeah, you let the ads run.
Best gear to battle the cold, and the first thing I'm going to talk about might get some controversial opinions on this, but I do believe, having done this in the winter a lot, I think in terms of shelter, the best way to battle the cold is to probably use a hammock. And the reason I say that is the very, very coldest setup you could ever make is a hammock. You know, you can get negative 20-degree underquilts, stuff like that. Now, most people aren't going to be camping that cold, so you say, why does it matter? I still think from a just being warm standpoint, an underquilt is a lot warmer than a sleeping pad. And then additionally, what you can do with a hammock is you can get a top cover, which if you're backpacking with a hammock in the winter, you should just get anyway. But that traps a lot more heat than a tent. So between a really, really big warm underquilt, a really, really nice top quilt, and a top cover on a hammock, I think that is the warmest way to go in the winter. And then additionally, a lot of times in the winter, if it's not super windy and it's not necessarily gonna be snowing, you can get by without having to bring a tarp. So you can have a pretty light, warm setup compared to a tent in a hammock. And there is nothing like just a cold winter night and you just get in that hammock and you feel that underquilt start to warm your back. It's so much warmer than a sleeping pad. I really do think it's a lot more comfortable and a lot more warmer in a hammock in the winter than it is in a tent. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I would. All right, what's your best stuff to battle the cold?
Okay.
It's cold out here. It's winter.
I mean, I'm sure Kevin's going to talk a lot about down stuff, and that's great and all. But one of the things, like insulation is insanely important, but also staying dry. So when I think of like battling the cold, not only do I think about good insulation, but I also think about staying dry. And staying dry can mean a bunch of different things. It can mean redundancy in your clothing, so like multiple pairs of gloves, multiple hats, because the stuff that you're gonna hike in during the day is gonna get wet. And then even going as far as having like another set for the following day, one for camp, that type of thing. Sounds a little bit crazy, but I get cold super easily. And then additionally, you're gonna get wet during the day. You're gonna want a nicer rain jacket, potentially rain pants, something to keep moisture off of you. You know, of course, depending on the weather, you'll probably sweat like crazy. Obviously, if you're wearing a rain jacket all day or rain pants, depending on the temps and stuff like that. Around the Midwest where we are, our winters are like generally like 35, 38 degrees. And so it's just wet and cold. And so waterproofing and then like a lot more clothing to change out into and to have dry spares. And I've said this in other videos, and I love some of the comments too. People are like, oh, you just take your wet stuff and you just put it in the bottom of your sleeping bag, and then bam, the next day it's all dry. It's like, it could get a little bit dry, sure. And that might work once you get going and you put on some like damp gloves and it helps during the day. I get that, but just be a little careful with that. It's not gonna be as perfect as you want. And then also, sure, you can build a fire and dry out your clothes, but how many of you have also burned your clothes doing that? I'm pretty sure everybody's gotten holes in their socks or gloves as well doing that.
Another good item to battle that cold in the winter, if you're going somewhere and you're going, let's say, with a group of people and you're gonna be like hanging out. So Andy already talked about fire starters, But a good thing is a camp tarp. So if you're hammock camping and you have the top cover on and you don't need to bring a tarp, well, you can just bring a tarp and it's like the same weight. And then you have something to mainly block the wind. You have something to block the snow, and then you can set it up in a way, and Andy and I have done this, behind you to where it'll help trap kind of the heat coming off that fire. You can make like a, you know, like one of this with a tarp.
Lean-to?
Yeah, like a lean-to setup with the tarp. And that's a really good thing to do in the winter. We've done that many, many times. You know, we've been stuck out in Red River Gorge with David Gray and had to do that. We've had to do it at Lake Vesuvius. But a camp tarp, and you can get like a, you know, a xenon one or something that weighs, you know, 10, 15 ounces maybe. And it's just a good thing to throw in there. And if you're hammock camping, you might have it anyway, but a good camp tarp will help you a lot in the winter, much more in the winter than the summer if you're going out there in the winter and you want to like hang out.
Just switching away from clothing, I want to talk about like some like just insulation in general. So here's some like weird things that I do that help out in cold weather. First of all, we sit in chairs during the day, or when we're at camp, I mean. And you sit in a chair, your butt's gonna get cold because your butt's off the ground, it's not insulated, air's going through it underneath you. Same thing with a hammock. So having insulation on your chair or wherever you're sitting can be helpful, you know, and like in the spring, summer, and fall and stuff, you can, you know, sit in your chair, sit on a log, whatever. But then obviously bringing like a small piece of foam or something like that to sit on is super helpful. Another weird one too is if you're sitting around the campfire in the snow and your feet, you know, are in contact with the ground, and you could lose some heat there too. Even having like a little piece of foam that you put your feet on top of is super helpful to just stay warm when you're not being mobile. It's the only time I really carry a small piece of foam. A lot of people carry foam just in general though.
Something we always harp on this channel, gear to battle the cold. You know, Andy talked a lot about trying to stay dry. So in the winter, and this is something new the last like 2 years, we only wear boots and we only wear waterproof boots. The reason being kind of obvious. We're usually in the snow or the ice, or maybe there's like a frozen over creek crossing. And when you get to camp, you do not want cold feet. And then additionally, we always like boots now, not like a super high top, but like a mid top boot for the winter, just because in the winter you need a lot more ankle support. Let's say you're kind of like post-holing through the snow, or you got ice, or like what's really annoying is if there's no snow or ice but the ground is super frozen and there's all these like little undulations in the ground, you can like roll an ankle on that. So in the winter we need a lot more ankle support, and we want to stay dry, and staying dry will help you stay warm too when you get to camp. So we only do boots in the winter, we only do waterproof boots because people ask. We like the Solomon GTX mid top boots. They're great, but that is a good way to battle that cold in the winter.
The obvious one, insulation. I'll just talk about down gear. A nice down jacket with a hood and pockets is an absolute must in the winter. I know that there's like a lot of minimalist down jackets that maybe don't have hoods or pockets or stuff like that. Having a place to put your hands, store like your lighter, your flashlight, anything else, also a hood for an extra level of warmth is something I would look for in a down jacket, and that would make your life a lot easier. Down pants, we talk about it all the time. It's just made such a it's such a game changer for being around camp. Obviously you're not gonna hike in down pants during the day, but around camp they are just amazing. I usually start off sleeping in them and then I get too hot and take them off. Additionally, we use down booties as well. Those have been a lifesaver, so pretty much it's just a complete down suit.
Rapid fire, some quick little like trinkets, little things you can do to stay warm and battle that cold. Obvious thing, you can take those little, you know, disposable hand warmers. Those are really popular. Just be careful with those. Those can like get super hot and melt and burn stuff. Andy and I generally don't ever take those, but we really do see a lot of people using them, and we use them all the time, just not necessarily backpacking. But that's a good little thing you can bring. A second thing, and I do know people that have these, you're gonna laugh, and you can get them pretty cheap on Amazon, and I've talked to people that have taken that backpacking. You can get like a power bank operated heated vest or jacket.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you can get them. They're honestly not that heavy. They're not that expensive, and you can get like a 10,000 milliamp battery pack, and they go in there. I've used one before. I've never used one backpacking. I've used one at a football game, and it works. And I know some people who do take them backpacking in the winter. It's not any heavier. You know, you're still gonna bring a jacket or a vest. You just have to bring an extra power bank, and those can really help, especially for someone who gets a little bit on the cold side. Another little thing you can do, and I've started doing this more often, is right before you go to bed, eat or drink something warm. Now, an easy way to do that is, like, if we're in the hot tent, just make like a cup of tea, or you can make yourself a nice winter warmer cocktail that'll make you extra warm. Or you can just eat your dinner a little bit later, but putting like a really warm just bolus of material in your stomach will make you super warm. And the key is, you always want to go to bed warm. You don't want to go to bed cold, because it'll take hours to warm up when you're in your insulation. So you want to go to bed warm. You can do that by eating hot things, drinking hot things, get some hand warmers, get one of those cheap insulated heated jackets. But those are some quick little trinkets to help you stay warm. Lastly, a little thing you can do that'll make your life a lot easier in the winter is have your down jacket, or whatever your warm layer is, very accessible on the outside or maybe the top of your pack during the day. Because what happens is, you obviously can't hike in it, but the second you stop hiking and take a break throughout the day, you know, we're always digging out and putting our down jackets on. You can also keep like your rain jacket out, you know, because those can be a little bit warm, but have a warm layer easily accessible in your pack during the day, so that when you stop hiking, because it only takes a few minutes, you'll start getting cold. You want to keep that heat on that you've gotten from hiking. Throw your jacket on right away. Just have it on the outside of your pack.
Okay, we like the camp experience, so this is where this is going. So fire starters. If you want to have a fire in the winter, it could be challenging. Don't screw out, you know, go a little aggressive on fire starters.
Take more than you need.
Take more than you need. And then additionally, like, tools to process wood. It could be harder to locate and process wood in the winter. So things to make like gathering wood and starting fires a lot easier. You know, some aggressive fire starters, maybe a nice saw, maybe an electric chainsaw.
All right, that's it. Those are our tips. Those are our tricks. Help you items to battle the cold specifically. We're out here. It's about 30 degrees. You know, there's a pleasantry to it. We talk a lot about winter backpacking. It's something we've gotten into the last, 3 or 4 years. It's a lot different, it's a lot harder, but there's beauty in it, and we always recommend at least trying it once, and hopefully you can use some of these gear tips to make it a better experience for you.